Also, I think the English perhaps are actually quite good at protecting old things in old ways. We seem to be quite proud of that idea. And I think hedge laying forms a part of the general life cycle of a hedge. I think people realise the conservation value, they realise the regional skills that are involved. People like to see it. They feel it's something that reminds them of the past, something good and safe, I think, really. And people also like to try it, people like to learn it. And they feel very satisfied when they've done a day's hedge laying because they can look at it and say, I did that. And I think it makes people feel good. We have very good, we call them agri-environment schemes in England. This is the government giving grants to landowners to carry out conservation things. And one of those things is hedge laying. So it is possible, if you're in something called the higher level scheme, it is possible to get £7 or £8 per metre. Now the cost of hedge laying, it varies on how big the hedge is, but the cost of hedge laying is perhaps between £8 and £15 per metre. And the government does give £7 or £8 per metre if you're in that scheme. In many areas it's still because they're important for farming, and a farmer will want to, not so many, but they will want to lay the hedge to make it thick again. And that's gone on for hundreds of years. But we have another reason these days, and that's conservation. We're more aware of nature conservation, and we know that if we leave a hedge, it will become a line of trees, effectively. And we know that if you cut a hedge at the same height every single year for 40 years, then it becomes nothing in the bottom and there's no wildlife habitat. So the reason the government give money to farmers to lay hedges is not because of their animals, it's because they want the wildlife in the hedge. And the laid hedge forms a fantastic wildlife habitat.
But if one day you have no grants for that, do you think that it will be a problem?
Well, there's a long answer to that. I think that is where perhaps the very complicated styles are going to be a little bit of their own destruction, because if there isn't the money, £8 to £15 per metre, what are they going to do? So I actually think we may have to develop a style for the future, because these styles have developed over hundreds of years. We now perhaps need a new type of hedge laying. Same technique,
yeah,
but perhaps we need to leave a bigger hedge for wildlife.
You mean a new style to
perhaps a European style, how about that? That we all do the same thing, because it's for wildlife then. Because it's not necessarily needed for animals anymore. That reason no longer exists.